How could you describe the direction where your product development is going nowadays?
Let me start a bit with an historic outlook, so to say, or back look. Say, if we have been looking back at how security started, we have been seeing on the endpoint part now there has been a document, and that on a computer, and that has been at a time protected by an antivirus system, right? So then development went further on, and obviously also the hacking community went further on and became more sophisticated. So after that we have seen technologies coming in like encryption. We have seen that spanning also into the mobile world, so that we have now all the mobility pieces on it. We also saw that on the, if you look on the networking side and take computing resources, so to say, as a hacker's target, we saw technologies coming like firewalls, like IPS, dedicated mail systems, dedicated web filtering systems, VPN, Wi-Fi, and so on. Then we had a lot of different single standalone products, and then we saw the market moving into bundling these products, so that you had a commercial offering combining different components, right? And that was on the endpoint part, so you heard a lot about bundles and suites and all this kind of different namings. And you saw on the networking side technologies developing like UTM systems, next generation firewall systems, where you put in one product different technology components. Now what we see now with threats like Snowshoe, with CryptoLocker and so on, is that having individual pieces of security technology as standalone solution is not really enough anymore, right? So the hacker attacks become way more sophisticated, and they actually build a chain of events with which they actually come to their full should I say, to the full extent of their attack, right? So they need different pieces coming from different sources to really build the full attack. So what we see, and that was your question coming from, where the direction that we see is that these nowadays standalone technologies, they will actually need to talk to each other, right? And that's a major effort that is ongoing within Sophos and what we're doing, saying that while we have a lot of individual technologies, like for the end user part, and for the mobility part and encryption, and we have UTM / next generation firewalls, but just having these alone, that will not be really enough in the future. So these components and these different systems, they need to talk to each other in the meaning that if on the endpoint something happens and an attacker tries to actually disable the antivirus system on the machine, then that there's an automatic link towards, for example, the firewalling system, saying that, okay, I still had a connection, we call that heartbeat, towards that endpoint. Well, now that connection broke down, so that automatically actually triggers an event in the firewall saying that we don't allow any communication from that endpoint anymore to the outside, so that it might not be able to potentially get additional malware into the system that actually unpacks itself like a bad present, unwraps itself, and that gets all the bad stuff in the company.
If I understand well, then the customer, the user, the CIO, the IT security guys can benefit from this integrated approach, because the system will be automatically more secure. Do I understand well?
Absolutely. Of course, it's in the end all a question of configuration, but the system is now if you look at the CIO, if you look at all, kind of the responsible people, is that the threat that is imminent for them is actually that they're getting exposed. Not so much they as a person, but they as a company, right? So that company confidential information, they leak out. And what we see happening these days in the market is that having these individual pieces is not enough anymore. So they can build an ecosystem where something is happening in place A triggers automatically an additional action on a complete different component, right? And with this adds an additional layer and measure of security, right? So then then they have it all in there, and then they have it, for the whole administration becomes easier for them. They save resources on financial resources, on manpower on the resources, and they decrease heavily the risk, of actually catching something bad, thus being exposed, and then having all the negative maybe PR, maybe customer complaints, everything that comes with it.
When do you think this integration will fully ready at Sophos?
The integration has already started between different components. We will now bring within the next quarter our new piece of next generation firewall on the market, which again then brings an additional, so to say, connection piece with the endpoint. We will now bring also on the encryption side a connection with the antivirus that we have. In the future, we will also see that encryption, AV, network, all that will come way closer together in combination also with the mobile security and the mobile management. So all this will come within the next 12 months so much closer together that there's an extremely interesting road that we are going right now.